Hi, welcome back to On the Daily. In this episode, I am answering your questions. I decided that I wanted to be interviewed, and so I set up my own Q&A. And so I asked my broadcast channel on Instagram, which is called the Woo Squad. If you go to my Instagram, you can see that on my profile. Join the Woo Squad. I give a lot of astrology tips and a lot of business advice and things that are kind of exclusive to people who are in that channel. So if you haven't joined that channel, come on over to my Instagram and you can play with us. But I asked that channel what questions people had, and I want to answer them for you. So we're going to go through each one in this episode. So if you're building a business, I said, ask me anything: business, human design, astrology, or money. So if any of those things pertain to you, listen to this episode. Here we go. I believe that when you truly know yourself, you win. Welcome to On the Daily, the podcast where we dive real deep into human design, astrology, and your subconscious mind, all with the intention of you building your idea of a big delusional life and an even more delusional business. My name is Danielle McCleary, and I am a master human design and astrology teacher, somatic coach, business mentor, public speaker, and seven-figure entrepreneur. My biggest gift is the ability to see beneath the surface, and I think too many people look outside of themselves for who they should be and what they should be doing. Around here, that is unacceptable. Around here, we break the matrix and really remember who the heck we are underneath all the programming. This podcast will give you all of the tools, mindset, and practical application you'll need to be everything you came here to be in the shiniest way possible. Are you with me? Let's freaking go. Scale to 6 is my business accelerator, and that accelerator is starting on September 9th. It previously was the Scale to 6 Mastermind. I realized some inconsistencies within that program that I really wanted to address, and the point of that container is to help people scale to $10,000 to $15,000 months in business without burning themselves to the ground, without having to adhere to all of the old paradigms of business. And so we revamped it. We reworked it. And now it is ready, and we have guest speakers, we have guest experts in like all of the different areas of business, like SEO and LinkedIn and marketing and copywriting and sales and tax and business law, you name it, we have it. And I am so excited to share all of those people with you. But if you sign up, it's $4,000 for 6 months. You can pay that per month, $700. I also take Afterpay and Klarna, which I think a lot of people forget. And so if you are looking to get like a lower monthly payment than $700, you can use Afterpay and Klarna, and it'll break it down even more for you based on your own financial situation. So it's $4,000 for the 6 months, and you can join for 6 months or a year. It will include a retreat here in Austin, Texas in February. And it involves skills trainings. It also involves group coaching calls and hot seat coaching, Q&As, plus a Slack channel where anyone in there can submit like copy, website stuff, sales pages for me to review, things that need to be reviewed so that you can really apply it to your business. And it's all within the guise of building a business around your human design and your astrology. The first people to join before September 1st will get access to a one-on-one private branding session with me, where I'm going to look at your human design, I'm going to look at your astrology, and I'm going to help you determine a brand identity and a personal branding and marketing and sales and social media strategy moving forward based on those things. I don't think no two people in my world have the exact same marketing and social media and sales strategy. And it's because we all have unique human design. So yeah, come on in, join us, and let's build your business. Okay, let's get into this episode. Speaking of business, let's get into this episode. Okay, so I literally have my social media up as I speak, and I'm going to go through each of these questions because there's some really good ones in here. So here we go. Number one, this question came from Helene, and the question is, how do you balance a full-time job while starting and growing your business? Okay, I really love this question. And the first thing I need you to know is that there's no such thing as balance. There will never be balance when you're building a business alongside your career or alongside a job, because there is only one of you and you have to allocate your energy accordingly. So instead of trying to look for like a 50-50 balance, because that won't exist, instead think of your energy as a pie or a pizza, right? You start the day with 100% of that pizza. Throughout the day, you give slices of that pizza to different things. Now, what a lot of people do when they're building a business alongside a job is the conditioning of, I have to be perfect. I need to prove myself. I need people to know that I'm a hard worker. That lives so deeply inside of them at their job, even though what they're doing at their job, they actually don't care about as much as they care about their business. But a lot of that energy of that pizza, a lot of those slices of pizza are going to their job every day because they're still trying to be noticed by their boss that they don't actually care about, or trying to do really well in their job that they don't actually want to be at. And so what I tell people is, like, when you're building a business, when you decide you're going to build a business, I think some of the worst advice people can give is like, burn the boat, quit your job. Like, because here's the thing, like, financial stress is a real thing. And if you are stressed about money, the last thing you're really going to have the energy to do is like build a business. So I actually do not think you should quit your job before you have a business that can sustain you financially. Or at least almost sustain you financially. Sure, when you quit your job, you may take a little bit of a hit, but it shouldn't cause so much financial stress that you go into this spiral of self-doubt and shame, which leads to self-sabotage, and then people quit their businesses. So I don't think you should actually quit your job before your business can sustain you financially. That being said, I do think that you need to stop giving so much energy to the job. My wife experiences this, and this is a conversation we have a lot. And, she has a job. She's also building a business. My wonderful, perfect, amazing wife, Breezy, is a people pleaser and really, really cares about doing a good job. She also, when she gets like a bee in her bonnet about like ethics or like what is correct in business or, in a company, because she's worked for a lot of companies with a lot of ethics and a lot of moral high ground. Whenever she works for someone who doesn't, she gets it into her body that she has to be the one to fix it. And one of the conversations we've been having lately is, I'm like, look, like, you don't even want to keep this job long term. Like, this job is to sustain you until your business can sustain you financially. So why are you going to work and giving so many pieces of your pizza to this job that you don't actually care about, and then you come home and you have no energy to actually do the thing that you want to do? So I think instead of trying to establish balance between your job and your business, I think when you're doing both, the number one thing you need to do instead is just really discern how many pieces of pizza you're giving to the job versus giving to your business, because you should definitely be giving more pieces of your pizza to your business than you do that job that you don't actually care about. And if you're not doing that, then it makes sense that you feel like your business isn't growing because you're exhausted and you're burnt out and you're stressed around, about like how to build a business when you also have a job, because it is stressful, right? Like, full-time job, trying to build a full-time career, really, really stressful. And it doesn't have to be as stressful as you're making it, but you are going to have to release your need to be needed. You're also going to have to release your addiction to the praise that you have for doing a really good job at work, because you don't actually want to have that job anyway. So that is something that uh, is really, I think, important, and quite honestly, something I didn't do. Like, when I first started in entrepreneurship, I did the opposite. I did not try to, I tried to have balance. And what that looked like was me burning out and me giving everything to my business, and then also trying to give everything to my job, which just like led me into the ground. So I didn't do that at first. And so now I can speak from this new perspective of like, you don't have to do it like that. And actually then when I finally figured it out, I still did have a job. Like a lot of people don't realize this. Like I had a job until March of 2023, technically. Like I had multiple sources of income. Which I believe in multiple sources of income anyway, but like I had a job way beyond when most people thought that I needed one. But I have a sun and moon in my second house, which means that like my emotions are very much tied to my financial security. And so not having financial security for me is a non it's unacceptable. Like that won't ever happen. So I kept a job a lot longer than I needed to. But what I learned was I can show up to this soul cycle class. I can teach it to the best of my ability. I'm not saying to go to your job and like slack off and like half-ass it. I'm saying go to your job, do the best of your ability. I would teach the best class I could, and then I would leave. Where before I was like trying to get promoted and I was trying to like take on all these extra responsibilities and like be a training development officer and like, train new instructors. And so finally I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to teach my class. I'm going to do a really good job with that, build my community at my job. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to spend my time building my business. And just that energy shift, like who I gave my pieces of pizza to, made such a difference in how my business grew. So I hope that helps. Okay, the second question is also from Helene, and it says, mistakes you learned and grew from in business. Well, the one I just said was one of them, like trying to do the most in all areas because I hadn't healed my addiction to praise. That was my first mistake. Another big mistake that I used to make was keeping people in my business or keeping clients for way too long, or attracting clients who like put me on a pedestal versus attracting clients who were self-led and, wanted to do the work for themselves. And this was all down to my energy. I would get very much like, oh, well, I'm going to be available all the time and I'm going to answer every single email myself and I'm going to respond to everything in the DMs and I'm going to do all these things. But then all that did was like attract a certain type of person to me. So that was a big mistake that I've learned from. The other mistake that I made, I think, which I realized this recently, is I hired a copywriter about a year and a half ago to build me a quiz funnel. And this was like a huge investment. I mean, we're talking like almost $15,000 for this quiz funnel. And I thought it was great. But then what I didn't realize is what I actually needed to do first was really restructure and reorganize like the back end of my business, which led to actually getting rid of a lot of the offers that we included in that quiz funnel. So the quiz funnel very quickly became like very unimportant or it became very irrelevant. And it kind of just sat there. And so I don't want to say I wasted that money because I definitely like learned a lesson. And now we're actually reusing a lot of what was in that quiz funnel and kind of repurposing it into something new that we're building now that we have more clarity on where the business is going. But I think one of the mistakes I made early on in business was like investing in like all of these like fun techie things before I actually knew what I wanted to sell. A long term. And I was very much being reactive in my business. So I was acting very much about like what I want to do now versus building a business that I want 3 years from now, which can be hard. And I think that this is something that I've really learned from is I no longer make decisions on how I'm feeling in the moment. I make decisions based on the kind of business that I want to have 3 years from now. And that looks like a little different. It definitely looks a little different than it used to because there's things that I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just want to do this. But then I'm like, yeah, but do I actually want that in 3 years? No. So like, we're not going to do it. So I think a lot of mistakes that I made in the beginning and that I see a lot of other people make is people make business decisions based on their current emotions or their current state of affairs. So their current financial status, their current emotional state, their current level of healing. And then as they heal, as they make more money, as different things start to happen, their business changes and then those decisions they make become irrelevant. So I would say the biggest lesson I've learned is to make decisions based on the business that I want for 3 years from now, which really keeps me from making reactive emotional decisions on my business. The other thing, I think another big mistake that I made in business was in the beginning, um, really chased like high cash injections. So pay in fulls, um, big levels of cash injection so that I could say like, oh, I made in the beginning, it was like, I wanted to say I made $40,000 this month, but like that was 1 month because everybody was like paying in full. And I would offer a lot of incentives for people paying in full. But then this kind of kept my central nervous system on high alert, trying to recreate those results every single month. And that was really stressful for me. And that was really stressful for my central nervous system. So what I've learned is to actually build monthly recurring revenue through payment plans. And people always say like, yeah, but like, what if people don't pay? And like, do you ever have people like default on payments? I have people default on payments a lot. Every business owner has people default on payments. And this is why you have contracts. So like invest in the lawyer that's going to write you a really great contract, because that's going to keep you from having to like miss out on money. There's another mistake I'll talk to in a second, but that was one of them, is that I chased high cash injections, and then I kept my central nervous system very stressed out trying to recreate those results every month. And what I've learned is to instead build monthly recurring revenue. I don't really offer pay in full incentives very often, unless it's like Black Friday or like the 12 days of D, or sometimes we'll offer like a pay in full discount for something. But most of the time, like I'm really interested in monthly recurring revenue. So I'm much more intrigued by building, consistent 75, like we had for the last like 6 months, we've had close to $75,000 of monthly recurring revenue. And that's before anything new selling. That's before like pay in fulls. That's before high cash injections. So I don't actually look at like my private clients or like, these little fun master classes that I launch. Like I don't actually look at those as income. I look at those as like bonuses. My income is the monthly recurring revenue that I've been building over time. And yes, that means you're probably going to take an income dip at the beginning when you decide to start building a business from that place, because it's going to take time to build up that recurring revenue. But it's so worth it, because then you're not so stressed out every month trying to launch like 1,000 new things. So that's something that I did. The other mistake that I made in my business was I didn't have, for a long time in our contract, we didn't have a like opt out thing. Like we had no clause about like defaulting or leaving a container early. And that ended up costing me, I think it was either $6,000 or $8,000, because I had someone in my mastermind decide to leave. And I let them out of the contract because I didn't want to deal with the energy that person brought to the mastermind anymore. So I was very okay to release that energy. But in the process, I was out I can't remember now if it was $6,000 or $8,000, but I was out a lot of money. And it's so funny because I don't even think of $6,000 or $8,000 as a lot of money anymore. I'm like having this realization now, but at the time, $6,000 to $8,000 was like a good amount of money. And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just kind of having like a in the moment reflection on how that doesn't feel like a lot of money to me anymore. But at the time, I remember it being like, oh, that sucks, because that person was in my container for 6 more months and they left. And that meant that I was out that money. So what we learned was I put a clause in my contract where now if somebody leaves a container early, they're responsible for paying 50% of what they still owe. So if you come into my world and you are on like a 6-month contract for $12,000 and you want to leave after 2 months, that's fine. But the contract, 12,000 minus whatever, 12,000 divided by 6, like you still owe like $8,000. Right. And so 50% of that would be 4,000. So I will still collect $4,000 to kind of like buy you out of that. It's basically like if you rent, right? Like if you break your lease early, you owe a fee. It's kind of like that. So we've included that in our contracts now, which feels really good. And it feels mutually beneficial for me so that I am not just like missing out on all of that money. Yeah, that's definitely like a mistake that I've made. I think the final mistake that I made for a while was, I'm a 2-line in human design, and 2-lines really aren't meant to do business like anyone else. Like we're really not meant to follow any like trends or whatever. And I think for a long time, like I was looking to people that I really respected in business, and I was trying to emulate their business practice. I was trying to emulate their sales strategy. I was trying to, because like I really like the way they do that, and like we do similar things, so like I'll try that. And it doesn't work because I have to follow my own sales strategy. I have to follow my own intuition. And so I've obviously learned to not do that. But in the beginning, I definitely like spent a lot of time trying to emulate other people's sales strategies. And it would frustrate me because then my stuff wouldn't sell. And I'd be like, well, why? Well, because I was looking outside of myself for the answers. So yeah, that was like another mistake I made. I wouldn't say this last one this is kind of a bonus. I don't say this is a mistake I made, but it's definitely something I've been learning, is that the money my business makes is not my money. That's a big shift when you're building a business, is that the money your business makes is your business's money. The money that you take home is your money. And so really learning tax loopholes, really learning business law, really learning how to maximize your write-offs. This is all like a huge learning curve. And I think there's been times where if I didn't have the bookkeeping and the accounting team support that I have, I probably would have made a lot of mistakes in this area that I've been able to avoid because I have the team. So I think one of the first things you should hire as your business starts making money is a really good bookkeeper and a really good accounting team. Like this whole like, oh, I just do it on QuickBooks, or I just do it on whatever that tax website is. I just do it on there. Like, don't do that. Please don't do that. Get a professional to come in and help you. Even if you can do it, do you want to? Like, unless you're an accountant, like an accounting executive, or you're a tax person, like a CPA, like don't do your own taxes. Like bring somebody in who really understands loopholes, who really understands tax law, so that you can make sure that you're maximizing the write-offs that are available to you as a business owner. Okay, next question. The biggest advice you have for projectors in business. And this is this particular person. This is Deanna, and Deanna is a mental 6-2 projector. And then I also received I've been receiving a lot of similar comments because I posted something about generators and human design manifesting generators. And somebody, like a lot of people were like, I'm a projector. What about me? And so I got another comment that says, I'm an epically burnt out projector. I've been in a slump after getting laid off and trying to decide what to do next to pay the bills. And so let's talk to the projectors. So projectors in business, my loves, my beautiful, gorgeous loves, you are here to guide us. You are here to lead us. In order for you to be able to do that, we have to be able to see you. And a lot of projectors have been conditioned to dim their light because as kids, you had big ideas. You were very bossy. And because a lot of projectors are told that they're bossy. They're told that they know it all. They're told that they, are a little bit aggressive. And like, here's the thing, like projectors do know it all. Like you really do know it all. And so being told that it was too much, being told that you were too much, or being called lazy because you just were more efficient. Efficiency and laziness are not the same things. Or actually in this case, what people called laziness was actually just like radical efficiency. And so one thing you have to realize, projectors, is like you are here to move us into the new paradigm of business. Like you're the architects of the new paradigm of business. So everything that I'm teaching on about like getting people to break the matrix and move into a new paradigm of business, that's all constructed by projectors. And then as a generator, I'm coming to just like master it. But we have to be able to see you. We have to be able to find you. And so if you're a projector that is just like, quote, waiting for the invitation, AKA not showing up on social media, not posting your thoughts, not giving us your genius, then it's like going to buy a car and not seeing any car lots, right? Like one of the metaphors I give for this is like, if I'm going to go buy a new car, right? Like I got a new car last year. And it's about a year ago now. I bought a new car and it was a brand new Mercedes. And if I were to go buy a car and I drove by a car lot, it doesn't really matter if that car lot has a bunch of Mercedes in it. But if there's no sign that says like Mercedes dealership and like tells me that this is where I can buy a car, I'm not going to like pull into that parking lot and then like hope that I can buy a car. Like I have to be told you can buy a car here if you're ready to buy a car. And so projectors, you have to be the billboard. You have to be the one that's like, if you, whatever your zone of genius is. So if your zone of genius in particular, I'll speak to Deanna because I know that she's Reiki, she does a lot of healing, she's a somatic coach, all the things. Like you have to let us know that that is what you do. You have to be so confident in what you do. You have to shine so bright and be so in your zone when it comes to like, look, if you want to heal your energy, if you want to, build a business or build a life around your energetics, I'm your girl and that's what I do. Because then somebody who's looking for that can go, oh, car dealership. I need that car. That's the car that I want. So I'm going to pull into this parking lot. And I think the mistake a lot of projectors make is they mistake waiting for the invitation as I'm just going to sit back and like hope that somebody notices me. It's probably not going to happen. I actually think it's really powerful when projectors do ads, because by putting out ads, you're actually putting out like billboards. You're putting out things that say like, this is what I do. This is where my zone of genius is. If you need this, come on over. And so I think it's really powerful when projectors put out ads because it kind of just like puts their message out there in a more dedicated way. Projectors also remember that like your energy is piercing. So like when I walk into a room, like as a generator, my energy kind of like envelops the room, where your energy kind of pierces right through and like connects very directly with like one or two people at a time, which is really, really powerful. And your energy, like your aura almost enters my aura as a generator. And that can feel very intimidating to people. And I think this is why sometimes people feel like projectors are like too much, but it's really just because like we're not used to people's energy penetrating our own aura. Like that's something that can catch people off guard. So really knowing and remembering that you have that power and like almost harnessing it in a really alchemized way is going to give you the recognition and the success that you require. I mean, success is your alignment sign. So for you to feel successful means that people are recognizing your genius. And the only way we can do that is if you let us know that it's there. And I'm not saying to go cold call people. I'm not saying to go and like, barge in and be like, by the way, you're doing that wrong. I should be able to help you. That's not it. What it is being like, hey, just so you know, I'm here and I'm good at this. And if you need support, I'm your girl. And then kind of just waiting, because then you will get the invitations that you want. So just remember that, projectors, like you really are the architects of this new paradigm. And when you realize that and you put out your big shiny neon sign, then we can find you. And like, we want you to guide us. We want you to lead us, because that level of efficiency that you have is something that most of us can only dream about. Okay, one other question that I received that I thought was really, really great was, how do you find, where is it? Oh yeah, how do you find aligned friendships and navigate those that aren't? Okay. When you decide to build a business, when you decide to heal your trauma, when you decide to end your addiction to outrage and you decide to end your addiction to praise and outside validation, you are going to very seriously trigger people that have not done that. My case in point, if you have not listened to my episode from last week with not with Blake Lively. Oh my gosh, I wish I was just speaking. That was manifestation right there. I would love to interview Blake Lively on this podcast. Anyway, if you listen to my episode about Blake Lively, that's what I'm talking about. Like our society is very conditioned to outrage and very conditioned to need praise and validation. When you start to end that, you're going to trigger a lot of people. That's okay. Who you are an energetic match with before is not necessarily who you're going to remain an energetic match for unless they are willing to grow with you. And it's not fair for you to expect them to, nor is it fair for you to expect them to grow at the same speed as you. This was something I had to learn. Like I integrate and grow very quickly. And so sometimes I feel like it's weird when people don't, but I have to realize that like not everyone's going to integrate and grow at the same level or the same pace that I do. And so you have to be willing to lose friends. Like you have to be willing to let people go. I had a conversation with one of my best friends. She's been my best friend since high school. And like, we haven't actually Like there's been times where we haven't spoken for a couple months, like maybe up to a year. We really don't speak that much. And she recently came to Austin to visit for the weekend, and we had like a really deep talk where she's like, there's been multiple times throughout like our 20s where like I had to be willing to let you go because my number one goal was always like to see you happy. And I was like, that's exactly it. Like my biggest goal for all my friends is that they become exactly who they're meant to be. And if that means that along the way, there's no longer room for me, that's okay. Because the number one goal is that they become everything that they were meant to become. And I think this is something that we forget about when we go on this healing journey, and why a lot of people honestly don't do it, because it's easier to stay. It's easier to not rock the boat. Like that would in your body, in your subconscious mind, that is easier because you've become so conditioned for chaos that peace feels unfamiliar. And so the best advice I can give you is to remember that you are not going to be able to bring everyone with you. It's just the way it is. And that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be so many aligned people waiting for you. The amount of friendships that I've developed in the last 6 years that are so deep and close, and I felt like I've known them forever. It's astounding, and it really is profound, and it's really amazing. And that doesn't mean that I haven't had to let people go. I've had to let lovers go. I've been divorced. My son's dad and I broke up, and all of that was due to like our paths to becoming like who we are meant to become no longer included us as a romantic partnership. And when Breezy and I got together, and this is even something like Breezy and I have experienced, like I started to integrate and grow at a much different pace than Breezy. And we have struggled with being energetic matches for each other in this season of our lives. And it's the choice that we are understanding of that with one another that I think is what's going to be the really powerful story on the back end of this. But I would be lying if I didn't say that we haven't struggled with like being as connected as we were when we were both like first started dating, and we were like struggling to make rent and like, in the hustle and in the grind. When I stopped doing that, I think that caused a lot of friction because like Breezy was not at that place, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying like Breezy didn't grow as fast as me. Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Breezy's at a very different season of her life than I am, and that means that in a lot of ways, like we're not an energetic match for each other right now, and a lot of us as we were has to die off so that we can become what we are becoming. And I think we both just have an understanding that like that's just sometimes what needs to happen, and sometimes with friendships that's what needs to happen. So don't sacrifice growing and becoming everything you are meant to become in the name of making sure that you stay relatable to your friends, making sure that you don't leave people behind, making sure that you don't rock the boat in your family, because the people that are meant to come with you, they will. I can promise you that. The people that are meant to be there on the other side of it, they will be there, even if it feels like there's a disconnect in the moment. So that was like pretty much the best questions. There were a couple that were like, repeats, but those are the best questions I got. So I hope that this helps. I hope that this gave you some things to think about. If you want me to do another episode like this, I think that would be fun to do like a Q&A episode every month. But come on into Scale to 6. If you have more questions for me, Scale to 6 is going to be the place to do it. And I hope you have a good day. I'll see you next week. Love ya.